It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Friday, Gary, how are you?
Well, just so everybody knows, when I wake up, because I take a nap before I come in. By the way, I'm doing good. I take a nap before I come in, and when I wake up, just like you, I grab my phone. I think I do more show prep in bed now, just getting up before I come into work, and when I wake up, because I sleep twice a day, you know, at 9 or 10 o'clock, whenever I get up in the morning, I just lay there and, okay, that's a great audio. Send that to my files here. That's great audio. Do this. Oh, what's going on here? So tonight I wake up, and I just see the headline. The city-owned grocery store in Chicago is moving forward. I'm like, And then I just flick on the TV. I'm not kidding. I flick on the TV, and it goes to the channel that Seinfeld's on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the commie episode. And the kid's screaming at Kramer, "Commie, commie, traitor to our country." And Mickey looking at Kramer going, "You can take that commie crap to the street." See, we said it was funny because it's the second time we've mentioned it this week, that episode.
Right.
Because it's almost as if Kramer seems to be a significant portion of the people. I think I'll consider communism here. I think I'll do that. And so that also brings us up something we'll talk about a little bit later on. The whole thing about Walz saying that socialism socialism is just neighborliness to other people.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You know, one person's socialism is being a neighbor, a good neighbor.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll take a look at that because that couldn't be further from the truth. And the other thing I saw was and I can't forget to talk about it. It was on social media, and it was somebody showing a thread where this woman says, I don't care whether we're socialist. If we're socialist, my life's still going to continue on my farm. And somebody put,
really? Put your farm?
Somebody put, my farm? Question. Like, people have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we do, and our listeners do.
Right.
Have no idea what socialism is.
Yeah. It's not your farm anymore.
And so when I saw the entire thing, I went, well, that's how you get socialism.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you get communism is exactly what's going on in Chicago.
Right.
Because of because of the rioting and the looting and the shoplifting, supermarkets said, we're gone.
Yeah. Right.
And so because of government negligence, or, for example, as we saw what the Democrats wanted to do with the Green New Deal, let's regulate the daylights out of the private sector. Let's make it so they can't make a profit, which was the whole concept of the Green New Deal. And then we'll come in and we'll take it all over. The government will take it all over. And in Chicago, it's just a different thing. We're going to be completely and totally negligent. We're not going to do what our number one job is, which is to protect people and to protect private property. And then when it all fails, well, then, wow, we'll have a government grocery store.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Exactly. Well, you know, growing up, living on Air Force bases on and off, born on an Air Force base, I did not serve, to be clear. I just want to make sure that I don't want to get into the whole. Just to be clear, I was just a kid, and so yeah, we would. But the grocery store on base is called the commissary, and in Chicago they can call it the commissary. Pretty close.
Well, it's a Friday. You can get away with that.
I can get away with that. Hey, listen, we're just warming up. I haven't had my coffee yet.
Okay,
have you started?
Have your coffee and then try that again later.
Yeah, I don't know that one will make it back.
Maybe the inflection point.
Why am I workshopping on the air? I should do that later. Should have done that in line at the Quick Trip or something.
No, we got to workshop stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, there's too much ad lib.
Yeah, that's true.
We can't be. Oh my gosh, we can't be like the Kamala side by side. Oh
man.
We are. I mean, because we know what we're going to say, but we're not scripted.
No. Oh man!
All right, I was going to play it. Now let's do it. Here we go.
Right, okay,
All right, here we go.
All right.
This is now what you're hearing. You're saying, why is she repeating herself? She's at two different places, Wisconsin and Michigan.
Right.
And the script is exactly the same.
So good to be back in Michigan. Listen, let me tell you, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And listen, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds and had a summer job at McDonald's. I had a summer job at McDonald's. So hear me when I say, hear me, Detroit, when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type. And are we ready to fight for it? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win.
The mess at the end was just great.
Oh, the mix was
it was beautiful.
And just so you know, that concept was developed by Richard Carpenter for his sister Karen Carpenter, overdubbing over the voices, overdubbing and
right. And Phil Spector did that a lot.
Phil Spector did that, and then Brian Wilson did, yes,
right,
and so why not Kamala?
Why not Kamala? Did I say Kamala?
You said Kamala.
Kamala.
Probably because we were talking communist.
Kamala?
Kamala.
I can't stop saying Kamala. I'm sorry. I'll apologize for it right now.
Can you?
I don't Kamala.
Where's your coffee? Take a chug of coffee.
Oh, no, you know what I'm drinking, by
I'll
the
talk
way?
for a second, and you just drink your coffee and get that injection of caffeine.
Oh, I don't know that'll help with the whole Kamala thing. But the
where the hell did that come from?
What, I don't know. I think we know where the Kamala thing came from. I think we all know. What I noticed in the New York Times is they were going through the difference. Was it New York Times or did Wall Street Journal point this out? I think it was the New York Times. They were talking about the favorite soda of each of the vice presidential candidates, and it's Diet Mountain Dew, which is my favorite soda. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be seen as one of those. Oh, so you're drinking it because J.D. Vance drinks it, huh? No, it's the other way around. Yeah, that's one of my caffeine go-tos. He's drinking it because I am. By the way, Trump said something that we had said here, or he posted it on Truth Social, and I thought, no, he is listening. What was it that he posted? I'll get it here in a little bit, but it was, I was like, no, there it is. There we go. Here it is, Truth Social. Kamala, look, I said it. I said Kamala. Dang it. I had it.
You didn't do this yesterday. What happened?
I don't know. Kamala, I'm trying. I really am. I think I'm making progress. I'm progressive. Here's a quote. This is Trump on Truth Social. Kamala refuses to do interviews because her team realizes she is unable to answer questions, much like Biden was not able to answer questions, but for different reasons. I mean, we said almost verbatim.
I know. Well, we did get that. After Trump made his speech yesterday, got a couple of things. Oh, they're listening to you. Hopefully they are. Let me play the one thing from that got me to laugh from Trump yesterday. Let me just get to it here. I've got so much audio here. It was where he just said, I think it was it the stupid question?
Yeah.
It's like, what a stupid question.
That's a stupid question.
Well, the thing which they were trying to make the case, since Trump has not held a campaign event.
Right. Yeah. Right.
trying to make that there's a moral equivalency
Right.
between him
Yeah.
and Kamala. And it was just like, or Kamula.
Kamala.
But here it is.
Okay. Mr. President, you have not had a public campaign event for nearly a week now. Tomorrow you'll be in Montana, which is not a swing state. Some of your allies have expressed concern that you're not taking this race seriously, particularly at a time where there is
It just shuts it down. That's a stupid question.
All right, I know, because I've gotten so many. I can't wait to see what you guys think about how Trump did compared to last time, and a lot of people said, well, he's taking your advice. Do you want me? Well, I'll do both. I'll do the quick nitpick.
All right.
And then I'll give the generalization.
All right.
No, let me give the generalization first. It was fine. You know how you know it was fine? Because when I woke up, nobody was talking about the Trump speech.
I was going to say it didn't rise.
Right.
It didn't rise to the top, and there wasn't a lot of chatter about it.
Right. So that's how you judge it. Now, nitpicking, and again, understand that you and I nitpick everything because we want everything to be 100% exactly the right messaging all the time. That's impossible. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And it's easy. Sometimes it isn't easy, but it is easier to sit back after a speech and go, oh, I should have done that, should have done that, should have done that, should have done that.
Right.
And the only reason I do this is if they are listening.
Right.
Just just always a little bit of improvement. Number one, he's just, and we said this week already, he's got to get off this thing about crowds. Nobody gives a damn.
Yeah.
Now, it's not damaging because CNN was like, Trump saying his crowds were bigger, and I went, well, nobody's really paying attention to it.
Right.
It just, again, any time that you have in front of the press, when we looked at J.D. Vance the other day, he did everything right.
Right.
I mean, there wasn't one thing that he did wrong.
Right.
And so when you have that expectation of it, I want it from Trump too. Now that's the nitpicking of me, but the generalization is it was fine. I mean, some of the things, when he said, people tell me if Kamala Harris takes over that we're going to go into a depression, he probably meant recession because I don't know any economist that has said we're going into a depression.
Right.
But those are just real.
By the way, I hope this isn't one of those things where he says it and then all of a sudden 2 years later it becomes true. Like he's done before, But then hopefully that won't be the case.
Then I'll say he was correct.
Right.
On it. But nobody paid attention to that. I mean, that's just a little nitpicking. That's all nitpicking from me. What was the other thing? Oh, I didn't see, the left was saying, oh, he's done now. He's done. When he talked about, that if you're Jewish and you're voting for Kamala, basically what the hell's wrong with you? I didn't find anything wrong with that at all.
Right. Well, the question is, again, why would you vote for somebody in her policies and her current boss's policies, anti-Semitism? Their actions are making a very dangerous world for Americans, for the Israelis, for Jews in the Middle East, and also for Jews here at home by supporting all of those activists that are out there targeting here domestically, any of the Jews here domestically, which has happened over and over again. It's a very dangerous situation.
But he went through point by point about how radical they are, and I thought one of the greatest moments was his abortion comments about the radicals. They're the radicals. I'm not a radical. Again, they were trying to set him up with the whole crowd thing. What do you think about Kamala Harris's crowd? And it's like he's going to bite on that every single time because for some reason he is obsessed, and we have said the obsession with. But you see it from his followers. I saw it. See, Kamala only has 60 people here, and hey, that doesn't decide an election.
Right.
So and I know it didn't do any harm. That's just a personal thing where I go, stop it. But overall, I would give it, and for me, I give it a B plus. I give a speech a B plus. Which is really good. I give the the entire day of 2 days ago to J.D. Vance, I give that an A.
Oh yeah,
he was right on. But a B plus will win Trump the election.
Yeah,
and so that's maybe should I do it all pass fail?
Yeah. Well, no, I think no. Okay, well, but that would be a good question. Are we at the point with independence? We know the base on each side is locked in. With independence, are we at a point of pass fail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, it's because
there are so many things that the scale is so heavy on one side with the actual issues, the broken border, inflation, national security, the anti-Semitism that rules on the left, and all of these things right now are so. I mean, it's every day. You're seeing these images every day. The growing crime in cities to the point where Chicago can't even have a grocery store without the city setting one up themselves. All of these things are over and over again go through people's minds. And what they're asking is, what are you going to do? I've been actually saying this in my mind as if I were an independent. Every time I'm thinking of it, every time I see a story about the Harris campaign, it's, yeah, but what are you going to do? 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 And that's the thing, is that they haven't put it out there yet.
Well, and I think one thing that Trump did, because I judge it by the end of the day. What's the narrative by the end of the day? And the end of the day is, why isn't Kamala Harris going to do 3 debates?
Right.
They asked the question, now Trump has got these all lined up. You're going to do them. Well, I'm going to do the one. And then the other comment that she made, because, again, she's got the jet engine behind her, which is, again, a cover. And then when she was in that line and reporters were asking, you're going to do all 3 debates? Well, I'm glad that he's finally agreed to do the debate that we set up. We didn't set up any debate. That was a Biden debate.
Right.
But the fact is, that made her look weak. And Trump turned that around on her.
Right.
And the whole goal of a campaign, I'll say this again and again and again, is to have the focus negatively on the other side.
Yep.
And it's still there today.
Yep.
And so, it was still a good day, and not one for Harris, and we'll get into that coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, we got so much to talk about.
Oh, man.
Plus your calls and comments, too, 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider, too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high, and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the vice president finally answering some questions, but not really.
Madam Vice President, Donald Trump agreed to 3 debates. Will you be participating in all 3?
I've always been on record. I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump, and we have a date of September 10th. I hear he's finally committed to it. I'm looking forward.
What about the other 2?
Let's make sure we get this photo.
And goes right by.
Yep.
Goes right by, starts talking to other people.
Right.
It really wasn't a question. It was that she's going through meeting people, and a reporter was there.
Right.
And it's like, she coming out. The other thing is, too, the goal of a campaign is always to keep the negative stuff every day on the opposition, and that's what they did right there.
Right.
Plus, we'll continue talking about it coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. All right, so if I'm Trump's campaign manager right now, and I'm looking at, the week till today, I'm saying, okay, we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Everything's good. And the reason we're going in the right direction is now, after she picked Walz, what you have is all the negative, and this is what we need to do as a campaign. We always need to be the negative. The narrative overall in the media is negative and asking questions of the opposition. Right. Now, one thing Trump also did today is he turned around completely the whole debate narrative. When he did the interview last week, and he was like, well, I'm not really sure. We're like, don't do that. Either by the time you're asked that question, you need to know if you're going to do it or not going to do it. But the fact is that he said, I've already agreed. I thought this was a great political moment when he came out and said, I've agreed with, ABC. Was it NBC or is it CBS?
The others, there's the ABC.
The ABC,
the next
right.
Yeah.
The ABC is the one already. But then the Fox, and then was the other one NBC?
I think it was NBC.
Yeah. And he said, I've already agreed with them. Now, she's got to agree to all of them. And then she just said, well, yeah, I'm glad he's going to do the September 10th one.
Right.
With ABC. And then when asked the question, turned around and walked away.
Right.
That's going viral. That's all over the place on social media.
Right.
So you've just turned that thing around completely. Now it's on her. Why won't you do 3 debates? People really don't know where you stand on the issues. You haven't put out your platform yet. We don't know where you even stand on these issues. And, someone today brought it up. I think it was somebody on National Review, the exact same thing that we said. It could have been in the Wall Street Journal, that they wrote, we don't know what she thinks about anything. And the response is, the campaign isn't her.
Right.
It's campaign operatives speaking for her.
She hasn't said it.
She hasn't told us herself where she is. And like we said, the whole thing is, no. She stands strongly behind Israel. And then the New York Times comes out and says, no. She's open to the idea of an embargo of arms against Israel.
Right.
You're like, whoa. And so you don't know. She's going to have to define it. And in any of the things that she said yesterday, for example, on the stolen valor, she didn't answer the question. Right. That was really bad.
Right.
The campaign should have said, it's not stolen valor. If you can't say that, you got troubles.
Yep.
Because especially with independents, especially with people in the Midwest. And she simply said, we basically, the generic answer, we need to honor, anybody who has served.
Which wasn't answering the question. It was just a generic statement, basically.
Oh, did you see some of the fact checking too? One of the fact checks said, Trump said that 13 soldiers were killed. The majority were Marines. They weren't all soldiers.
Right.
It's like, stop it.
Right. Yeah.
Come on.
Well, there's another thing, too, that came out of her responding to the media yesterday, and she said, we're trying to set up an interview by the end of the month.
By
the end, you've only got a few months, and you're going to go another possibly all the way through August?
Without doing an interview. And so everything this week, and yesterday was a particularly bad day because for the Harris campaign.
Yeah, it was bad.
Because
Trump, we've said it, by the way. This is why they don't want her out there, because it makes it worse.
Yeah. Well,
yesterday just made it worse.
Well, the thing is, they can't answer any questions. You know what I noticed yesterday? They're using the word joy. They're trying to make the case that Trump is angry and we're all joyful. And I mentioned, the sports radio talk show host. I went, God, just shut up. Stick to sports. Colin Cowherd, who said, well, she smiles and the other guy doesn't. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
The challenges that we face today aren't serious at all. So let's just all laugh and have a good time.
Yeah.
And as a politician, I'm going to bring you joy.
Yeah.
Well, but that's what they're going. See how happy we are, and Trump isn't happy. We're happy. We're full of joy. And I went, oh, my God, they've actually workshopped that Or they've sat around a big table and said, okay, we can't talk about where we stand on the issues at all because the American people, by landslide numbers, disagree with us. So let's talk about we're the joyful people.
Yeah.
But then when she gets and she has to talk, when she actually has to talk and answer a question, you could tell she wasn't happy with that reporter asking the question about the debate. You know, the 3 debates, and then she turned around. She wasn't smiling. You could see it in her. So, yeah, you can be joyful when you're reading off a teleprompter and reading the exact same speech.
Right. Exactly.
Because there's one thing to, hey, keep it all on the teleprompter. There's the other thing to do the exact speech. Maybe she's saying, hey, I'm like a stand-up comic. Do the same show in a different in a different town.
And by the way, what if they put up the blank version and don't, fill it out they put it up on the prompter and she says, and I know the road to the White House goes through insert state.
Then you have a Biden problem. But no, I thought that too, and I'm glad you brought that up where she said, they said, you haven't done it. Well, look, we're getting together and we're working to get an interview by the end of the month.
We think,
my God.
By the way, and that doesn't, I don't know if that means you're going to schedule it by the end of the month or it will actually happen by the end of the month.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, we scheduled it. It'll be November 7th. Wow. Yeah, that was not good at all. Not good at all. And the thing with the Tim Walz and the stolen valor thing did not go away. That didn't go away.
No, it did not go away.
And there's only, I thought about it. Okay, there are only 2 ways to take this head on. And that is a dismissive thing, and that is really not taking it on head on. You're just kind of, oh, well, there are people that didn't like me or politically don't like me, and that's going to happen, and you're just dismissive, and you're really not addressing it head on. Or a mea culpa. And it would have to be a real mea culpa. I don't know if that would even do what they actually need it to do politically. I don't think it would. I just don't see that working. So it's one of those 2. Or you go in and debate. I mean, I guess a third option would be you debate your record when the record has actually already been put out there by the military? There is no debate. The media, the liberal media, already has all the truth on his record.
Did you see on CNN, one of the anchors was trying to make the case, well, J.D. Vance, he wasn't involved in combat, so maybe he's not the best person to be speaking about. It's like, well, no, the question isn't whether you served in combat or not. Right. And I'm like, wow, what a weak point. The question, the question is, were you implying that you were in combat?
Right. Exactly. Because he said in war. The Walz said in war.
Right. So,
and he was going after your Second Amendment rights. Those are, that's a 1-2 punch right there. In my opinion, it's the claim and putting that on your resume, which is a big deal, the whole stolen valor part of it, but also how you also leverage it, not just to gain power, but you're leveraging that to take people's weapons.
The only other nitpick I would have with Trump, and nobody talked about this afterwards, money people might have, was when he said, quote, I feel the president should have at least a say on rates in there for the Fed.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Stop that narrative.
No.
Stop it now.
No.
Now, it's not going to happen.
No, it isn't.
But I was like, no.
But don't even float the
because
idea.
Because you don't even sit there and say, what, you mean Trump having decision-making on what rates should be? I won't even go with that. Biden.
Yeah. Just, I mean, look.
Biden on rate. These... The left is so incredibly clueless on economics that it's like, oh, my God, let's make it completely political, the Fed rate.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I don't like it the way that it is, but that doesn't make it any better.
Right.
And it's not going to happen. So,
No,
I mean, like I
it's
said,
not
it's another one of my nitpicks. But that's what, if I was going to give a critique and go, okay, here's what I liked. And overall, like I said, I gave it a B+, the speech yesterday. And it was interesting because I didn't see it live, and I was looking at, the left and never Trumpers. Oh, he's done. It's horrible. I'm like, but I don't see any specifics here.
Right.
Where is he done? And then it was like, because of his Jewish comments. And I listened to the Jewish comments. I go, no, that actually makes sense.
Right.
To ask the question, why would Jewish people who support Israel be pro-Hamas?
Right.
That's a totally legit question that's been out there. It's not like Trump initiated it and it hasn't been out there. That's been out there all the time. In fact, that's a debate going on inside the Democrat Party.
Well, it is. And it's also the left is supporting the anti-Semitism and the radicals here at home. The radicals and the protesters, the activists are going after, they're targeting Jews here. And so, again, I didn't see that as a negative at all.
No. But that's what you want in any campaign. In any campaign, and we've said this for years, in any campaign, you want the focus on your opposition.
Yeah.
And Trump succeeded. First, Walz is what started it because he was so incredibly radical. Mm-hmm. And you had a bunch of Democrats and people in the media want Josh Shapiro because they understand that the anti-Semitism, racism, identity politics of the Democratic Party is a huge problem.
Yeah.
They know that.
Yeah.
And they went, oh, God, no. Why did, I don't care whether he's got his own ambitions. He's the one that you need politically. Yeah. And so picking Walz started that, and then J.D. Vance continued it, and then Trump did yesterday. And the focus, as we move into a Friday now, is all on why won't Harris do the debates?
Right.
Why won't she She won't do an interview till the end of the month. She hasn't told us what she believes. She says we'll tackle inflation day one. How?
Right.
How will you do that?
And by the way, why would you be afraid of setting up an interview for 60 Minutes for this weekend?
Yeah.
No,
because they would be as friendly as could be.
Right.
I mean, I thought they were just looking for the friendliest media, and it would be a couple of days. I think she's scared. I don't think it's her age. I think she's scared to death. She knows she's over her head when it comes to being in the arena of ideas.
And yesterday was actually an indicator of that. When the only thing she said is, "Oh, I look forward to, and I'm glad we agreed on a debate," and then walks away from the other questions. That tells you she knows she's in over her head. And then the fact that you can't just schedule you can pick the media. It doesn't matter who it is. Any of the left media will take it. You decide where you want to do the interview. You decide who in that media group is going to do the interview. You decide all of that. And how can't you do that? The reason she can't is because they have to prepare her for the landmines, and she's not prepared, and she knows it. Their landmines from the left media. Because what they'll do is they'll say, well, some say, or people on the right, or your opponent says, and they can't prepare her because she'll never be prepared. She doesn't have the skills. She just doesn't. And there's no other reason. You're kicking this can down we hope to set one up by the end of the month.
Right. And so they're just going to pound on her.
Oh, man. It was a bad day yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
Really bad day.
Interesting. Coming up on the top of the hour, a pollster says the polls that show Harris is winning, they disagree with completely. I think it was Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen who actually did a YouTube video on it and said one of the things you can't find in a lot of these things is I can't find their demographic makeup. They're not making that public. A lot of these, a lot of them put it behind, paywalls and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, even Rasmussen I can't find because it's behind a paywall. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Really interesting Rasmussen reports. Rasmussen polling came out yesterday and said Kamala Harris is not winning. Yeah. And I'll give you some of the reasons that Rasmussen gave. I think it's Mark Mitchell is the guy's name from Rasmussen polling as to why.
Yeah.
And it's interesting stuff, too. The things that he says, it goes, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, right.
So we'll have that coming up.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. We got a ton of stuff to talk about. Polling and whether it's accurate or not. One pollster has gone after the other pollsters. We'll hear from him and go through point by point what he says, what he believes are some of the flaws of the other polls and not the flaws in his poll. And if you've ever listened to the show, we've always looked at this. And we did more a few weeks back when we had polling that was showing the demographic political makeup. And we've stated that it's very tough to figure out what the political makeup of people is now that over the last really decade or so, people that claim that they're independent have really, skyrocketed. And we've been suspicious of all polls.
Sure.
And whether they are able, and I'm not saying that they are purposely doing something wrong, but the fact is, how do you figure out if somebody is a Republican, Democrat, or an independent?
Yeah, the qualifiers for the respondents and the criteria is certainly has a lot of wiggle room. There's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, so we'll get to that coming up. But I want to go to Keith in DeSoto, Texas, who is a Democrat. Keith, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi.
Hey, how you guys, man? Glad to be on tonight. It's my first time calling you.
Okay.
I was wondering, you stated that the public is 70% in favor of Trump on the issues.
On the issues,
like that.
All right, let me finish here. You didn't quote us correctly. On the issues that matter to Americans the most, it is landslide numbers for the Republicans and Trump, and that's on the economy, the inflation, border, things like defund the police, foreign policy in general. All those are landslide numbers for the president, or excuse me, for the former president.
I can buy that. Not landslide, but definitely tilted in the conservative way. But
I'm not saying again. I'm not saying it's landslide numbers. These are the numbers from the polling. I'm not just making it up. I don't just guess. Eric and I don't guess.
Now you guys are two very informed orators that educate the public on all issues, whether conservative or democratic. I think you stand in the middle and you present yourself very well. I listen to you a lot. I'm a truck driver.
Okay.
I listen to you a lot, especially the other night when your buddy was out sick. He had COVID, I think.
Oh, okay.
But I just think that I don't think that she's afraid of Trump. She's a skilled orator. She led the debate team at Howard. She's an attorney that's prosecuted for years. Was the state attorney general for the state of California.
I don't care.
I don't think she's afraid of Trump.
That doesn't matter. They're all educated and qualified. I want to know where she stands on the issues. She won't tell us where she stands on the issues. But we know where she stands.
Well,
we know where she stands on the issues. She just won't say it. The campaign has said she's reversed on everything, and now she's pro-fracking, pro-Israel. And right after she said she's pro-Israel, it was the New York Times, as we brought to you yesterday. We didn't say it. No conservative media did it. The New York Times, the United States' leading liberal newspaper, said she is open to a embargo of arms for Israel. That's completely the opposite of supporting Israel, which the campaign, but not her, has said that she believes. Why can't she just come out and do a press conference and say, here's what I believe?
Well, you lined up, because Keith, you lined up all the reasons why she should be talking to the media. The question is, why isn't she?
Well, any good politician is going to come toward the middle during a general, any election. They're going to come toward the middle because they want to get as many votes as they can. That's
the Republicans are very clear on where they stand on every issue.
And they didn't have to change anything.
Agreed.
So it's not any politician.
Doesn't have a filter on his mouth. He just speaks. He just speaks, and he speaks out of turn a lot, which causes him.
Doesn't matter. We know. Again, we're talking about where they stand. This is strictly an issue conversation, since that's why you called, to talk about where she stands on the issues. And you can't even tell me where she stands on the issues because she won't tell you where she stands on the issues, yet you want to defend her on the issues.
Well, she definitely stands for abortion rights. She stands for the Ukraine situation that the Republicans drug their feet on for 3 to 4 or 5 months. And she stands on not abortion, but banning black history, black slave history. And a lot of the states are starting to adopt that guy in Florida started that. Arkansas and Missouri are a few that are
who started it was DeSantis in Florida. And it's not banning books. No, it's not banning books. It's appropriate. It is. Yes, you did. You just said banning books. You said it. It's not banning books.
I might have said banning books. Banning slavery.
No. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie. See, you bought into the BS. That's a lie. No.
Okay,
no. Let me finish. What DeSantis didn't want is the critical race theory and the concept that all whites are culturally racist to the point that all society must be set up that whites are all racist, and the culture of racism is so bad, it's almost as if it's in their DNA.
Well, we know all whites are not racist. We know that, right?
Well, that's what that.
I didn't know.
Well, Keith, look, I appreciate your call, but every time we challenge you, you say, well, I didn't know that, I didn't know that.
Thank you, Keith.
And so we really can't have a debate. You haven't done your homework on these issues.
You had, look, the far left wanted you to believe. They want to ban books. They want to ban this. They want to ban. Then you had mixed couples showing up. Remember, they showed up at school meetings going, whoa.
Yeah.
You're trying to teach our children that one of their parents is a racist and then the other one permanently racist, it's in their DNA, and that the other one is permanently oppressed.
I don't know one Republican who wants to ban any history book on racism. Why? Number one, they don't believe in it. Number two, they understand that the Democratic Party of identity politics is the party and has in our history been the party of Jim Crow and slavery. And now with identity politics and anti-Semitism, the racism is coming right back to the top.
Yep.
But the thing is, we appreciate your call and we appreciate the fact that you listen. But I can't have a debate. It's impossible to have a debate where everything, when we call you and you go, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Because all you're saying is, I've based my opinions on ignorance. I don't know what's going on, but I have an opinion on it.
Well, you base your opinion on something somebody else told you, and then you just took the one little piece of what they told you, and then you went with it.
Yeah. I thank you for listening to the show. I really appreciate it, but it sort of gets embarrassing where every time it's like there is no argument because, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Though that means you're not doing your own research.
Right.
You're listening to somebody else who tells you something, and you call a radio show with your definitive opinions on something, yet you really don't have a clue as to what you're, with all due respect, because you seem like a real nice guy, but with all due respect, I got to be blunt. Don't do that.
If you consider yourself somebody who's willing to listen, I said this, what was it, a month and a half ago? Ask yourself the question, what is it that you actually know about the people you politically support, about the party you politically support? What is it that you actually know that you weren't told by somebody else and didn't research yourself? Are you repeating somebody else's words? Because that's what we heard just now. You're repeating things that other people have said. And we couldn't get into the whole thing on Ukraine because where does she stand on Ukraine? Specifically, what is her plan on Ukraine? You don't know if you support her on Ukraine because she hasn't told you that. If you're saying I support her blindly, then also the conversation is over. Because there's nowhere to go with that. You're not willing to have a debate. I'm going to vote for her and it doesn't matter. Okay, then the conversation is over. There really isn't a debate there. But if you're talking about the issues and you care about the issues and you're willing to listen, you're willing to think it through, you're willing to do your own research, then you have to take that advice of what I said a month and a half ago. How much do you actually know? Because it got into my mind. We know that people don't have the time and aren't wonks and they don't spend 12 hours a day doing what we do, 12 or 17 or 19 hours a day, if you're doing this for a living. We know that. But seriously, step back and ask yourself, what do you actually know about the issues of where they stand, because you're giving them your vote. Are you giving them your vote because you're supposed to? Because you feel like you're supposed to? Because you're going to vote for them and there's no way you're going to vote for Trump? I mean, then it's not about the issues with you. Then you can shut the door on everything else. But if you do care about the issues, then you have to ask yourself what you actually know about them. And you have to do your own research. It's not just Eric and Gary that say these things or believe these things and also look into these things. Conservatives all over this country are on top of these issues, and they are vocal every single day on the issues, while the left does what? Name calls. It's name calling. Yeah. It's name calling. It's name calling. Ask yourself, if you support the Democratic Party, why they won't break down and have an actual debate about the issues, about the border, about inflation, without being dismissive and name calling. They can't do it.
And I guess the other thing is, because I felt a little bad, which is why I wanted to end the conversation, because it was like I expected more of a fight. And it was like, oh no, you're right on that. And it's like, well, all politicians go to the middle. And it's like, well, Republicans haven't gone to the middle. Oh yeah, that's right. It's like everything was like, that's right.
You're willing to listen,
right? Which is good. That's good. You're willing to listen. Good thing. But you've listened, and your opinions are that Kamala Harris has these definitive opinions, and she doesn't. She hasn't. In fact, on all the major issues, her campaign says she is flipped.
And so, by the way, we've seen this before.
We don't buy it.
We've seen this before over the years, where a candidate has, isn't saying things, and then everybody, we'd have their rank and file surrogates, their voters call in and say, well, they just want to. You don't know that because they haven't said that. If you're giving somebody your vote, that's not clicking the like button for somebody. unless it is for you. And again, then the conversation is over. There really isn't anything else to talk about. And if it's clicking the dislike button for Trump, again, all right, then it's not the issues that drives you. There's nothing I can do about that. You're still free to vote and vote however you want. But if you really care about the issues, then you have to ask yourself, what is the actual truth? And am I repeating something that's been told to me by somebody else? Because that's what it sounded like.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets. Percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. One of the reasons that we went to the last call, because people think that we get a ton of criticism from Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't.
No.
We really don't. And the last caller was very complimentary of what we do, and we appreciate it.
Sure.
But the reason I wanted to go to him is because he had talked to Alan, and there were specific things that he wanted to defend where Kamala Harris was standing. And I wanted to see, because one of the things that we don't know is what the Democratic voter is actually thinking, how they justify what they think. We know that, for example, the only emails or correspondence I've got from Democrats is Trump's a felon, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
His personal life, they never discuss the issues. So when he was willing to discuss the issues, I was like, all right, finally.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point of when a statement's made and it's minor cross-examination and he folded on the arguments very quickly, it's like, well, wait a minute, you don't even believe what you're saying. To be dissuaded that quickly, what are you listening to that is giving you the impression that Kamala Harris stands for all these things when you don't know whether she does or not?
Right.
And when explained to you, for example, the whole, quote, banning books, I say quote because nobody wants to ban books from adults on the Republican side. And then he brings the racism issue, the slave, which was debunked a long time ago. They talk about slavery. What they didn't want to talk about in Florida was we're not going to indoctrinate kids that all whites are racists.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I mean, it's,
and
I don't know where to
go.
Well,
Well, because, again, if you're only listening to what somebody else has told you, which is a very small part of it, then you don't know the entire issue. There is no opinion. You can't form an opinion based on that.
No. But I think, and I do thank him for his call because I think is indicative of a lot of Democrats. But the fact is he was willing to, he's willing to listen, and he listens to our show, which is great.
Yeah.
So, but there isn't anything, we just don't say, here's what's happening. We have to have evidence to back it up. One thing we won't do, are there times when a newspaper will report something and we'll report this is what they're saying, and at times we'll go, I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll report it. But if it's wrong, we come back the next day. The last thing that we ever want to do here is debate something that isn't truthful.
Right.
It's a waste of our time. I don't want to do that.
Right. There's no purpose in that.
Yeah, there's no purpose.
It goes nowhere. In fact, it's more damaging than anything, because ultimately, if you do that, then it shows you're buying into the credibility or you're losing your credibility because you're buying into somebody else's version of the story and you don't care about finding the truth. You find the truth, and that's where you form your opinion.
We have said this on so many breaking news stories where people said, the information's out there. We go, we can't verify it. And the 2 or 3 times we did it, everything that was out there on the internet was wrong.
Right.
Because we don't care about being first. We care about being right.
Exactly.
Powered by windmills and solar panels. Red Eye Radio.
And if the power goes off, the big diesel generator in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Which we had to use just, once?
I turned it on before every show just in case.
Free-Zola.
Just let it run.
Free-Zola, we used it, remember?
Yeah, we did. Sure did.
Remember
I had to go out there and check the fuel levels every, I think it was once a day. It was loud.
I know.
I really should have worn earplugs. I'm partially deaf anyway, but I should have worn earplugs. I mean, it was loud, and it was cold.
Did we have any heat in here? I can't remember.
Yeah, we had.
Okay,
Because it was fully operational. So
okay, there was heat. Well, because it didn't operate all the lights in the place.
No, but our
heat was on
section of the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well.
And our latte machine. That was what was most. We don't have a latte machine.
I tell you though, I see. Now it may have changed because I heard somebody in my street got a generator.
Yeah.
And but before it was banned by the homeowners association because the houses are so close together. Now I don't know if they have extra room,
or maybe they had to put it in their garage or something, or.
Well, no, they had a.
You talk about the,
I'm talking about
placement of it?
The natural gas generators. You don't put those in garages.
Oh, the natural gas. Yeah. Okay.
Now, one of the problems with it is natural gas pressure was low and those generators didn't work during Free-Zola. So I've always thought about, you see them, they're getting cheaper, the big lithium ion batteries that say they can run a bunch of things, for you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to run your air conditioning, but you can run a fan, you can put the TV on, you can do a bunch of different things on that, and
or dual fuel on the bigger generators would also work. If
right,
you
could get one of the gasoline generators to use that. My thing is I don't like storing gasoline in my garage, just because it's attached to my house, and it's just it gets so hot in there.
Right,
and so, but I've always thought, well, it's got to. I wouldn't even consider one that can't power a coffee machine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to get any type of lithium ion huge generator. It's like, and then I look at it and goes, okay, this one can make you 62 cups of coffee. It's like, that's the one I want if I ever got one.
I saw one of the best ads from a YouTuber that I follow. He was actually my first subscription on YouTube, and he's a fisherman out in California, and he traveled to go fishing, and he was at this Airbnb, and the power went out, and he got the notification on his phone, but he actually was set to do an ad in that episode for one of those, I forget which one he advertises, but one of those, and he said, actually, this is the perfect time to talk about my sponsor, because here we are, and he showed the notification on his phone, we're out of power, and so let's give it a try, and they gave it a try. And he did another ad, and I've seen this before with others, the kind you're talking about. And some of them come with solar the power rechargers, and so you can get a solar panel I don't know if that would, work in the worst case scenario, how that would work. But one of the concerns really is, all right, power's going to go out. I need to preserve the food. Like my oldest daughter was one of those that was without power here in Texas for a few days. In fact, some in Texas it was more than a few days that were without power after a massive storm the day after Memorial Day. And so she was like, Dad, what do I do with all this, stuff in my freezer and everything else? So we made arrangements for that. But, that would be one of the great concerns is with the price of food and everything else, trying to at least keep your refrigerator going and maybe a fan and charging your phone, right? Short term. But, yeah, I'm kind of mixed on the generator thing. My RV has a dual fuel generator, so I can park my RV anywhere I want to go. And also has a remote start. I don't have to go outside. Glamping. But, in the survival part of it, it's like, at home, it's like, all right, what can you actually do? And can you actually count on the grid? Well, after Frizola in Texas, it was like, okay, if Texas can't do it right, then, there's time for total reconsideration here. Mm-hmm. And the sales for some of those generators went through the roof during that time.
Yep. All right. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up here, because there was this article yesterday, was because we started the show analyzing, Trump yesterday, and I gave him a B+ because he didn't do any harm. He wasn't the story at the end of the day. But article was written, Phil Klein, National Review, Trump will get his clock cleaned by Kamala Harris in the debate if he doesn't improve. And talks about the Biden debate and said, and it's true, because Biden was so bad, nobody paid attention to Trump. Mm-hmm. And he says, but he goes, here's one of the problems that Trump has. One of the things that people forget about the first debate is that Biden's performance was so bad that it overshadowed the fact that Trump actually didn't do that well himself. He spoke using the sort of MAGA shorthand that is comprehensible to those who already support him or who spend a lot of time online, but not to persuade voters. When Biden confronted him on the story about his calling members of the military suckers and losers, Trump said it was false. Now, he didn't continue it. He then went on to say it was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, and just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. To those who regularly watch Trump's rallies or get their news from Fox, they likely knew what he meant. But for those who don't already agree with him, Trump did not make an actual argument. If voters were not well-versed in his jargon, it wouldn't be obvious that by Russia, he's talking about the disproven charges that he colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election, and they might not immediately recall the media censorship surrounding Hunter Biden's laptop prior to the 2020 decision. The role of the intelligence community or the details of what was on the laptop, they wouldn't have known that the 16 left-leaning economists predicted Trump's policies would lead to inflation ahead of the debate. Remember when that came out? Mm-hmm. And we said, well, they're all socialist economists, which is really interesting. And the other thing is he talks about at the press conference yesterday, one of the problems. He said Trump had a perfect opportunity to go after Walz. Walz has advanced a long list of radical positions. These include issues that should be slam dunks for Trump, such as putting tampons in boys' bathrooms and giving illegal immigrants driver's license and free health care. Yet here's what Trump said about Walz. She picked a radical left man. That is, he has things done that. He has positions that are not even possible to believe they exist. He is going for things that nobody has ever heard of, heavy into the transgender world, heavy into a lot of worlds. Heavy into a lot of different worlds? Anybody who isn't already familiar with the Walz record is likely thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Get specific. You're not talking to your base. Your base is with you. Talk to independents.
Even at rallies. We said this the other day.
Even at rallies.
That you're going to have to, and what you want to keep in mind is you're talking to somebody who's willing to vote for you and hasn't made their decision yet. And you have to teach them something. So you have to explain it.
Yep. And we have said over and over again, especially after last week, don't wing it.
Well, it's one of the practices that we have in our presentation on this show is breaking things down. You may disagree with our opinion, but you know why we have our opinion. You know, the previous caller, Keith, made the mistake that a lot of people make. I think you guys are in the middle. We're not in the middle. We're on the right. We're conservatives. We're libertarian/conservative. We're not in the middle. In our presentation, we're going to put it out there. The only thing I care about is the truth in terms of opinions and discussing the issues. And so if someone on the right, even somebody I voted for, somebody I support, somebody I might continue to support, does something I disagree with, I'm going to call them out on it. And it's the way we should treat all public servants. And when you can break it down, we're able to do this. We insist on doing it. When you can break it down and explain to people. Now, the luxury that he doesn't have, former President Trump, is a 5-hour daily talk show and plenty of time. You're going to have to be able to break it down, but also explain it to them in capsule form.
Well, the other thing he needs to do is learn to deflect. Because when the reporters, when the political activists yesterday were trying to get him off his game by talking about the size, he should have said, whatever, it's a campaign.
Right.
Everybody gets people. But let's get back to the important thing and go right to the heart of the matter. But as Phil Klein writes here, Harris has well-documented problems with speaking. But the Trump campaign, and this goes back to what we've always said, you campaign as if you're 20 points down, you prepare as if you're 20 points down. Mm-hmm. He goes, but the Trump campaign would be wise to assume that she will come to the debate well-equipped with many talking points on all the issues most likely to come up, and she will stick to the script. There are a lot of avenues for Trump to challenge Harris and get her off her game, but that requires a command of details that he can use to make arguments in a comprehensible way. If Trump decides to wing it and thinks he can get away with the type of performance he did at the first debate against Biden or Thursday's press conference, he will get his clock cleaned. From Phil Klein, National Review.
Well, yeah, you can't talk in these, it goes beyond vague generalities. It's nobody knows what you're saying at all. They don't even know how it relates. You have to get into the very specifics, and you have to be clear and concise. This goes back to the comment that I had the other day. And it's your speeches need to be as concise as your ads.
Yeah.
You don't need them to be 2 minutes if you're giving a speech, but you do on a debate stage. On a debate stage, you need to be able to get all of your positions and your attacks on your opponent across, make them clear and concise like a debate or like an ad would. And on a debate stage, you're going to have a limited time. And I would do, if you're going to go in and you're going to rehearse, and I don't know how much rehearsal he does about, for debates. There's some preparation. I don't know how far they get into it. But you do that every single day so that it just comes out naturally. It's like a musician. You walk around with the instrument all the time. You're constantly rehearsing. So, because if you don't have the ability to do that, and you're inclined more to do what Trump does, Trump wants to have just this big, open, long conversation. The problem is it wanders, and you can't do that. It's what they did at the convention. And their approach clearly was, let's come out there and just have a conversation with the people. Well, but you also have to demonstrate that you're very clear about your agenda, about what you believe, and also what your opponent believes. And those are things that you can't get away from, and they have to be demonstrated because the attention span for people is very, very low.
He had the opportunity to destroy Walz yesterday and didn't do it. And he could have brought up two or three different things.
Mm-hmm.
Tampons for boys. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Done.
Right.
One other thing, bring it up.
Yep.
But the generality was, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And so he should have prepared for that. That's one thing. You knew you were going to be asked about Walz. Here are the three things you bring up.
Right.
Now, I give him a B+ because at the end of the day, it's still, the story is about the Harris campaign and how screwed up that is. Mm-hmm. So you succeeded in your goal. But you've got to be on the attack, too. Mm-hmm. It just can't be, well, I didn't create any damage today. You have to totally dominate the conversation. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up following the top of the hour. The polls, are they accurate? You have one pollster that goes after the other polling firms out there and saying, and does make a great point, says all of those other polls are sponsored, so many of them are sponsored by, different political groups out there. Mm-hmm. And this was Rasmussen saying, we're not.
No, right.
Ours is subscription, and we do it all the time.
Right.
And it was the head of Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, that pointed out, he goes, here's why we're right and they're wrong.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Welcome to a Friday. So much to talk about. Just very quickly, the whole it was with the whole white dudes thing last week.
Yeah, white dudes for Kamala.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The whole white dudes thing with what's his name, Walz, on there with the white dudes talking about that socialism is really neighborliness.
Yeah, right.
And it's like they say that, and it's like, okay, and nobody ever questions, what exactly does that mean? Right. Is socialism in any way related to you being neighborly with your neighbor? Which I would assume means helping them out.
Right.
And not that we're going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's important to do things to tear these things apart when somebody says that, to say, what the hell does that mean? And is there any way that socialism is really the same as neighborliness?
Well, and if you live in a commune, I know we're moving on to communism very quickly. If you live in a commune, are you a neighbor or just a roommate? Well, it's just neighborly.
Trying to find, she said it yesterday. Here it is. Let me find it here. You ready?
Yeah.
Let me play this from you. You just reminded me. I just was searching for it. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in the collective.
Oh, so many questions. So many questions. Hey, I have a million questions.
Well, let's look at it. Neighborliness. Now, for example,
the collective.
Now, for example, I got home this morning,
and
I looked. I could see there was a package on my front porch. I didn't order anything.
Oh,
and so I pick it up, and it's my neighbors, my next door neighbors.
Oh,
so after I take out the garbage, I pick up the package.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's still dark out, I'm like, nah, I want to take care of this now. And I went, I wonder if they'll know it's me when they look at their cameras in the morning, their phone in the morning, and they see there's a warning that somebody's on their front lawn. And so I drop it off there. By the time I wake up, my neighbors, thanks for dropping off the package.
Yeah,
I said, I wonder if your cameras caught me, putting the package there.
You try and be quiet, that it's 5:30 in the morning. But I always, if they have a doorbell camera, I'll and something like that, because it's happened a couple of times. I always talk into the camera. Hey, I'm Eric from across the street or whatever, and this came to me by mistake. This is yours. And then,
well, I didn't ring the doorbell at 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I just
no. You can talk into the doorbell camera if they have one.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they have a camera system. I don't know what it is, if it's a doorbell or not.
Yeah, if they have a doorbell camera, you'll know it.
Well, and I saw they've got the automatic lights that come on because of movement, and there's a camera attached to that. So when the light came on, I'm sure then the warning went to the phone that when they woke up, they saw that somebody was there. I mean, that's how mine works. I'll see when I wake up. Unless I'm gone and I have it, and I don't have my do not disturb on, then I'll know. But yeah, so that's being neighborly, right? You help your neighbor. For example, when I was growing up and it would snow out, and my mother would say, after we were done shoving our lawn and so proud, she'd say, do the neighbors now. Well, what should we charge, Mom? Nothing. Now, my late mother, I did not like as a young teenager when she told me nothing. That's what you do as a good neighbor.
Right.
That actually,
you can't buy underage beer with nothing.
Now, actually, that was closer to socialism because somebody was mandating that I be neighborly.
Well,
my mother was there was no choice. The dictator of the house was dictating to me what I must do to be neighborly, so that would be closer to socialism.
You were still in the fascism state of your life.
Yes, right.
Do it or else.
In fact, can you believe it? They made sure there was age-appropriate content for me also. Those damn dictators, those parents of mine.
I tried to get the inappropriate content.
Oh, we did try.
They always found it.
They always knew where it was, too.
Yeah.
And they'd confiscate it.
Right.
So, to be neighborly is a completely voluntary process. And you do that and you expect nothing in return. The government isn't involved in it whatsoever. The government doesn't dictate that I must be neighborly. Socialism is a completely different ballgame. The government owns everything.
Yeah.
They own the means of production. They own the property. If you want to look at the Soviet Union as an example, they tell you where you have to work. They tell you how much you're going to be paid. Now, there is equality for the 97% of the destitute population.
Yeah.
The 2 to 3% that are in the party in control, well, they're all fine. But the equality is at that other end. But there is no correlation, none, between socialism and being neighborly.
Yeah. Right. Well, because
Walz, seriously, I mean, it's like that's why you have to tear it apart, because you have to show what an intellectual lightweight he is.
Well, you just spelled out the very simple idea behind being neighborly. It's voluntary.
It's voluntary, right? Nothing in socialism is voluntary.
You either want to do it or you don't. You have to want to be neighborly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's forced, from your mom and other fascists.
Don't worry.
Generally speaking, not directly at your mom.
Let me look up that. No, she's smiling. I'm looking.
By the way.
Believe me, my late mother looking at me down from heaven knows my sarcasm.
Trust me, I had a long list of rules and regulations. My mom is a former Baptist church Sunday school teacher. So, we had plenty of rules in the house, and I followed nearly half of them. And the thing that they want you to believe over and over again, and I guess the tactic is, well, this is a new generation. They really don't know what socialism is. It's also sometimes the person saying it doesn't know what socialism actually is. Because you get into this, what was it? What did they call it during the Bernie years? Democratic socialist.
Yes.
Yeah, or in the States, as we call them, Democrat.
That sort of relates to this week. The folksy socialist.
Yeah.
Or as the new term we came up with this week, compassionate racism.
Exactly.
That the Democrats believe they practice.
Right.
We're racist, but we're doing it for your own good. Because we care for you.
We're the party that cares.
Yes.
About segregation.
Yes.
Tell me where I'm wrong. This is recent years. You don't even have to go back 60 years.
No, we can go back to last week. White dudes.
White dudes for Kamala.
White women.
White women for Kamala. Nothing new. This is something that they've actually proudly been promoting. And we're like, wait a minute. Whoa. Years ago, it was like, okay, we know why, because this is how they think. This is how their mind works.
But you need to tear apart, and originally I wasn't going to do it. I did see the National Review article that was written on it, and I just went, oh, wow. I didn't even read the article, and it was in my mind. Wait a minute. We talked about it yesterday when he said it, but I'm like, I got to tear that apart. And it's because when they come out with slogans like that, socialism is simply being neighborly.
Right.
Well, let's find out whether that's true or not.
Right.
And then find out whether this person who is running for vice president is completely and totally clueless.
Right.
And the evidence suggests by him saying that he's completely and totally clueless, or he is purposely lying to make an oppressive economic and political system seem palatable to you, that it's only just about being equal.
Right.
And again, that's where Walz is a fraud and can be easily torn apart. Oh, the other thing is, because we examine all campaigns and what's going on, him behind Harris, he's always bouncing. It's really weird. I know it's like he's bouncing up and down, that his mouth opens. I hate to say this because this is such an offensive word, but he looks sort of weird.
He does.
It's like
bobbing around.
I was like, Eric, did you notice the bobbing around behind? It's like, he's got to stop that. It looks just.
You know what it reeks of? Move over, Kamala. I want to talk.
He's in his mind going, you wish you had Josh Shapiro behind you.
One of the guys that served with him actually in an interview said that this was a guy, the only thing I know about him, I didn't know him very long, but the only thing I know about him and that I could, the only takeaway I had primarily from his behavior was this guy liked to hear his own voice. He liked to talk a lot. And we've seen that. And that hit me going back to your comment of earlier this week of Kamala Harris picking him because he can do all the talking and she's afraid to talk. And because Mark Kelly is not the talker, he's not a yapper.
No, he's not. No.
And I mean, in the heat of what was going on in the Senate, everybody was asking, well, how are you going to support the administration? What? I'm sorry, what? Would you like to make a statement? I just did.
I think we said at one time, the vibe he gives out is, I'm an astronaut who has no interest in anything or explaining anything to you.
You know, in my head, it's like he's been talking to John Boehner. We don't like Messi. Let's not get in. I just don't want to get involved in the politics of it all. You're a senator. This is the problem that they'll have, though, is that I'm waiting for him to do a sit-down interview. Now, she's supposed to do one sometime between now and November 5th.
She's working on scheduling
She's working on scheduling one, she said, by the end of the month.
And what the Trump campaign has to understand, look, we've been critical that they're not, that at times, and hopefully they've got it together now because there's plenty of time to win this election. In fact, as Rasmussen said, the polls are wrong. We're right.
Yeah.
Trump is up by 5. That's what they're here. And things really haven't changed that much. In the CNBC, you saw that one came out, Trump is up +2. And it said that, they said, Harris has really done well with young people, but was at 35 to 64, has moved tremendously towards Trump, right now. So, but when you look at this, when you look at the mistakes they made, remember, we knew this thing, really by Monday, we knew about the stolen valor stuff, right? By Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It started, yeah. So this is already, we're at Friday right now. And the debate thing, they weren't ready to answer.
No.
They were not ready to answer that. So the debate thing and the stolen valor, they're completely lost on.
Right.
And that's nothing in a campaign like this, because the Republicans are going to be defining them specifically on the issues. And what are they going to do if they can't even get that right? So I don't want to make it seem, I won't say we. I nitpick a lot on this stuff because I think it's important just to point out. But as I've said yesterday, I gave Trump a B+. Because at the end of the day, everybody was still talking about the problems with the Democrats, and that's been reversed since Sunday, since she picked Walz.
Right.
And what has helped that along is Vance's public appearances, that he's done great, talking to reporters as he did, and then Trump yesterday, because what they challenged him on, the whole thing, I thought it was beautiful when Trump came up and said, no, what we want is, we want 3 debates. People need to know who she is. They don't. 3 debates. I'll agree to the one that she wants to do with NBC. She agrees to 2 more before early voting starts. That's all reasonable.
Oh, yeah.
You can't ever
right.
I guarantee when I talk to Independent Bob, he's going to go, that's bad because Trump's reasonable there. He's saying only 1 on Fox and the 2 others can be that we know are networks that are going to be friendly to you.
Right.
And she won't do it.
Right.
And then just damaged herself. When are you going to do an interview? Well, we're looking to put one together, or hopefully, discussing putting one together by the end of the month. And as you said, does that mean you're looking to make a date for one by the end of the month? Or you're going to do one by the end of the month?
Right.
But that's basically saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm pushing it off. It's horrible because now the press is starting to ask. I saw on MSNBC, one of the party people said, her campaign people said, well, she's talking to the reporters on the plane off the record.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell is that?
What? Which means they can't report anything that she's saying.
But these are Biden excuses. As she's trying to separate herself from Biden, she's acting the exact same way and giving the exact same excuses for not communicating and not have any transparency in her campaign.
Right.
Wow.
It's bad. Yesterday, it just got worse than the day before.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Okay, the whole polling stuff we'll get to following the bottom of the hour.
All right.
Oh, jeez. There's just too much going on. But no, there is no relationship between socialism and neighborliness.
No.
All right? They're totally different concepts. Waltz is a putz on that one. I don't know why that word was in my mouth, but
well,
it just shows, number one, how he's lying through his teeth, by throwing something that he thinks smart. Oh, socialism is like being neighborly. No, it's not. It's completely different. And totalitarianism is freedom.
This is why when the Wall Street Journal broke the personal financial situation of both of them down, J.D. Vance versus Tim Walz, it stood out. I thought, okay, this is why, and I said it, this reeks of somebody who is, because he doesn't really have any money, he doesn't own anything. And he and his wife are depending essentially at this point on their pensions. That's the brunt of their net worth. If you add up, I guess, the total life value of their pensions,
and his pay. I mean, he's getting paid to be governor,
and which is $149,000. But that doesn't go to your net worth because that has to be spent on living because there's no indication that it was in, according to his disclosures, that it's in a savings aside from a college savings for his grandchildren, which is less than $15,000, according to his disclosures. And I thought, well, okay. When you start hearing from someone like that, a lot of people are in that situation. But if you're in that situation and you're pushing socialism, then, man, I've got a lot of questions for you.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So if Eric and I ever say we're being neighborly today, that does not mean we're socialists.
No.
I want to make that clear.
No, no, we're not. Yeah.
By the way,
I'm not being neighborly.
Oh.
I'm not going. Don't expect me to ever be neighborly. In fact, keep the noise down, or I'll call the cops.
All right, so I saw this meme yesterday. It's the longest meme ever, but it's one of the best memes. Democratic Party be like, if you want to save democracy, you'll vote for this candidate we installed after lying to you about the incumbent's health to prevent a primary you could have participated in. Also, the candidate we selected was polling in the single digits when she tried to become president in a much fairer primary, so that's why we had to rig it for her. So get out there, Democrats, and save democracy.
If socialism is neighborly, then installing a candidate without the voice of the people is democratic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. We're learning the new definitions of things, kids.
All right, so I found this interesting yesterday because I'd seen the Rasmussen poll come out, and it showed that Trump was up +5. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, what's going on here? And then later on, the CNBC poll came out and showed Trump up +2. And I was shocked to see that Mark Mitchell, the head pollster at Rasmussen, number one, came out and said, nope, sorry, she's not winning. And then I'm on YouTube a few minutes later, and I see there's a YouTube video of Mark Mitchell, the head pollster at Rasmussen, explaining why. Explaining the difference in polling out there. Now, it's really long. We can't play the whole thing, but I just want to play at least a little bit of what he had to say.
The second thing I'd point out to you here is that there's only one other poll up here that is likely voters. Everybody else is polling registered voters. We've gone into that before. Another thing is that many of these organizations are corporate entities or have a deep well of public funding. We are, in my honest opinion, the only pollsters on here whose business will shut down if we fail to be accurate. In fact, all of the funding for the numbers I'm going to talk about today came solely from subscription and advertising revenue. Do you think Morning Consult is worried about subscription or advertising revenue? They absolutely 100% are not. Also, with how tight the race has been, I'm really surprised that there are no other polls that show Trump up at all. Now, I can't know the internals of every single one of these polls and what they're potentially doing wrong. And even in their disclosures, you wouldn't be able to know. But don't you find it suspicious that even though Joe Biden, we've been told, has been losing recently in the polls, and all of Joe Biden's administration, we've been told that Kamala Harris is less likable than him, and here she is winning all of a sudden? Let me tell you, if there was 1 week in this entire election cycle where you were going to get the most bang for your buck by putting out a crap poll, this would be the week. And I think you would find a lot of stuff like that. Things you'll find potentially is an increase in Democrat weighting in these polls week over week. Maybe they had less Democrat weighting 2 or 3 weeks ago with Biden. I'm sure you'll find some polls where maybe they threw out more survey respondents than they did in the past. They can also do things like play with the mix of where all their online panel results come from. And another thing I'm seeing here is, believe it or not, we're talking now the morning of August 8th, and the most recent polling is only out the 4th. And most of the stuff here is almost a week old. In fact, half of it is a week old. Don't you think that's kind of crazy too? Didn't you expect there'd be more polling after this historic shift in Democrat candidates? Maybe if you find a result you want, you just sort of hang on to those numbers and let it drift. But not Rasmussen reports. We're putting out numbers every Thursday for the rest of the election season, and we're going to show you the overnight results as they develop as well.
There you go.
All right.
And looking at it, their poll, the Rasmussen poll, goes to Wednesday. Every other poll ended on Sunday.
Oh, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, they're the only ones. They've gone through Wednesday now, and they're not fully through it because they went last Friday and then picked it up again Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. All right, so a lot of these pollsters don't poll on the weekends, even if it says, they go to if it's 8-1 to 8-7, whatever, well, they didn't actually poll Saturday or Sunday. So even some of these pollsters that might have gone till the 4th, they might have not polled on Saturday or Sunday. They might have just polled until the actual Friday. As to the interesting thing is, because you and I were able to find much easier a couple of weeks ago some of the polling, and this was on Biden, where we were looking at the was it? No, it was, I forgot if it was Biden or if it was Harris, but we were looking at the polling samples out there and said they're polling too many Democrats. They're polling too many Democrats.
Yeah, it was Harris, I think. Yeah. I'm almost certain of that.
Now, Harris poll hasn't had a poll in over a week, so that's what we were looking at. Mm-hmm. But all these other polls, you go into it, and they're behind paywalls, or they don't tell you, what the actual demographic makeup is. But I found it interesting that Rasmussen came out and actually said that. Came out and said, all right, we're going to promote the fact that your poll is wrong and see if anybody else responds to that. The big thing that was made yesterday was Harris is up by 4, Harris is up by 4 because of the Marquette poll.
Yeah.
Well, that ended last Friday. That's a week old.
Right.
After everything with Walz. So something is going on. I mean, I was looking at now when he said we're the only poll that shows Trump in the lead, CNBC came out with their poll and Trump is up by 2.
Well, and you have to look, again at the makeup, at the demographics in terms of the respondents, how it's weighted. And you think to yourself, all right, well, if it's so weighted where it's favoring her more, why don't they even weight it even further to make her look even better? Well, if that's the case, if that is the case, that the attempt would mean to improve, well, first of all, you don't want to just jump because nobody's going to believe that she's 5 points, 6 points ahead. And beyond that, you also want to, if you're trying to re-energize the base, and you say, well, the election is close. She can win, but you've got to show up to do it. Because voter apathy was probably the biggest not the biggest. The issues, I think, were huge, but certainly one of the major problems they had when Biden was the nominee. When Biden was the nominee, or presumptive nominee, I'm sure their internals showed them their base, many in their base were going to stay home. And so if you're looking to motivate people and you want to weight polls to be more in her favor, you walk right up to the edge. Hey, she's edging them out, but everybody has to show up. That would be the goal. Again, if that's what's happening. You have to look at the motivation of the pollsters. And he just spelled it out. That if you've got advertisers, if you've got different motivations, there's, again, we're going to do consistent polling once a week. I don't know, how long has it been? It's long past the 19 years we've been together that the question about pollsters has been out there. People question the polls all the time. Well, but in 2024, right, what's different is the motivation. Once you've seen the lawfare and everything and the Russian hoax and everything thrown at Trump, you understand just how dangerous a similar mindset can be and how far people are willing to go in order to tip the scale.
Yeah, and we said that with the polling where all of a sudden she was up so much, and we said be suspicious of all of this.
Yep.
If you look at it, the Rasmussen polling really hasn't changed, even from the week before. So the last 2 weeks, it's been Trump up 5. It's been consistent. And so for him to come out and say that, I was like, whoa. Because you normally don't have a pollster come out and challenge other polls. Trafalgar has, once in a great while, has come out, but I haven't seen them in the polling at all. But if you look at yesterday, Thursday, I mean, it was everything on Thursday. CNBC showed Trump ahead, Rasmussen, Trump ahead, both head-to-head and with Kennedy in there. Let me see. You had the Fabrizio, Georgia, Trump and Harris tied head-to-head, Trump +2 if you include Kennedy. They have Montana in there. Trump, mind-boggling up at 15 points there, and everything else. The generic CNBC generic congressional vote, Republicans up 3. By the way, if that's true, Republicans are actually up 3. It's a landslide, because you look at the history of polling, and Republicans will win if they're down 3 or 4 to Democrats, because traditionally they've been underpolled. If they're up by 3, whoa. If that's accurate. Now, I look at the CNBC polling, and I don't know how accurate they are. We have followed Rasmussen for a long time. What you end up figuring out who is the most accurate pollster really comes to when you get to October and everybody polls.
Right.
That's what will come out as the most accurate poll, because you really don't know now. But you say, I saw one poll that showed independents have swung 21 points into Harris's favor. I don't believe that.
No, I don't buy that.
No, I don't buy that at all. I don't think there's been a 21-point swing. I look at that and go, that's probably not accurate. Especially the one thing on this race is when you see the landslide numbers. CNBC, for example, 2-1, massively on the economy. People, by 2-1 margin, people support Trump.
Right.
That's a problem. Yep. That's a big problem. And that's when we were talking to that caller, the Democrat caller, a little while ago, and said, on the issues that matter, it's landslide numbers. We're not making these up. It's what they're being reported now. Are those polls completely skewed? Well, when you see what happened with Biden and people, how they view Biden on the economy and how they look at inflation, you can say, no, that's accurate. If you're the incumbent And you're the one that put through the bill that even Democrats say is the one that really put us over the top in inflation, and you want to spend more and more and more, and the people look at it, and you've been blaming corporations, you've been blaming Trump, and the public doesn't believe any of it. They go, no, it's you. Well, then you shouldn't be surprised with the inflation we have if Trump is up 2-1. That actually makes sense.
Yep. Right. Well, and we get into he mentioned the registered voters versus likely voters. We've talked about this for years, but it is important. All the qualifiers and the breakdown and makeup of the respondents in terms of demographics and likely versus registered voters, all those are critical in getting to the accurate measurement. And also the consistency in methodology along the way and the movement. You and I can't say this one is more accurate. What we can say is historically, likely voter polls are more accurate. What we can say after the election is, okay, these pollsters were closer. But that's going to vary.
If you look at most elections in 2020, a lot of the likely voter polls were not as accurate as registered voter polls.
And which is exactly where I was going. That's going to vary from election to election.
Right. But in the majority of elections, likely voters have been more accurate.
Typically.
Yeah.
And now we're into an age where nothing is typical.
No, nothing is typical in this election.
Exactly.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. As always, we appreciate it. But I thought that was really interesting on the polling. And we'll see. I mean, we'll know. I mean, we always know by the time we get to the end of November, we'll know the day after which poll was the most accurate. Now, you can look at the number of polls that they may look at and over a period of time, but for us, really, the most accurate polls will be in October, and that's how they will be judged when we see the election is over. But understand that at this point, as he brought up, Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen, that Hillary was up by 7.2 or 7.4 points, I think, at this time in the polls, and Biden was up 6.4. So both were way over what they eventually got.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Made it to a Friday.
Yeah, we did.
And so we have got a couple of days off, and it's like, yeah, it's funny because even last Monday, there was stuff that happened the Friday before, and you and I were like, oh, we forgot about that because it seems like such a long time ago.
It's a conundrum for us because I thought about this earlier during a break. I thought, all right, the weekend off. But that's not convenience. Because, and be careful, I got to be careful, because we have, and our great audience, we love you, and we'll often get on a Friday evening, man, wish you guys were on tonight. It's Saturday, wish you guys were on tonight. And, yeah, no, I'm with you in a way, because I hate waiting until Sunday night. I mean, obviously we need the weekend off, but really the weekend just becomes more time for show prep. I don't even like calling it show prep anymore, because if you're paying attention, if you're naturally curious, and if you naturally care about the future of the nation, then you're doing it. We've often said our audience is out there doing the same kind of work we're doing, but we get to come in and then break it down and issue our opinions for a living. But it's kind of inconvenient having to wait till Sunday night to issue the opinion of something that happened on Friday, which seems ancient by the time we get here.
I am absolutely addicted to my phone right now, and have been for a significant period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I've even been, because I'm working out like a fiend. As I get older, I know that I need to stay in as great shape as possible in order to do this show.
Mm-hmm.
As anybody who works overnight knows, that you have to be so disciplined to get your sleep and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been trying to do things here probably in the last month or so to try to get away from my phone, because that's where I do my show prep. You know, smartphones change everything. I don't need to sit by the computer. You know, I don't have to read. I don't have to get the actual newspaper and read it. And so friends, whatever, you're always on your phone. You know, well, I'm not texting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing, I read books on my phone. I read newspapers on my phone. I go to different think tanks and look at their analysis. So I know there's a bad connotation of being on your phone all the time. Somebody said to me one time, don't you think you're a little old to be on the phone all the time? It's like, well, I actually am not on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the computer part
right.
of the contraption. See, that's a computer. And that's why I have a stylus on my phone. So I put my reading glasses on. I got the stylus in the hand, and I'm doing it. And, man, I look damn important at that point.
Oh, well, that changes everything.
Well, at least I'm impressing myself. I don't know if anybody else. But I've been trying to I got my bike fixed a couple weeks ago. Not fixed, just, the tune-up.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is so great. And I've been now on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday morning, doing 20 miles at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, finally, I can get away from the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend to do a lot of sprints. So I'll do like 7 miles and 7 miles and 7 miles. And then I'll rest quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to rest for a minute or two, because it's pretty hot, take off the helmet. And we're dealing with yesterday. What was it yesterday? 105, I think we got up to.
Yeah, something like that.
And so even in the morning, it's still in the 90s. If I'm doing it, it's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Last week was great. One morning was like 73. It's like I want to ride 50 miles because it's so nice out.
Mm-hmm.
But I take the rest, and there's the phone out. And next thing I know, I've been sitting there for 30 minutes doing show prep on some park bench somewhere with my bike there, going, oh geez, now I wanted to get this bike ride done. There's just so much news and information coming at you right now that I can't get away from it. And I love it. I'm not, I love it. It's just at times it's like, okay, just do something else for a little bit. You're trying to stay in shape, so get away from the phone.
I honestly recently had to set up some new rules on my phone. And in order to do the same thing, just be able to set it down and not look down at it. And so I've the two biggest things, I no longer read articles while I'm driving. And number two, I don't take it in the bathroom with me any longer. So those, which I think both of those combined shows progress.
I was never a bathroom reader. I want to make this clear.
Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're missing.
Oh, my God. Now we've dropped down to an Al Bundy discussion.
Well, it's either that or the wrapper of whatever you're eating. So, it's got to be it's got to be something.
Do you remember when the episode where Al Bundy got the Ferguson?
The
Ferguson was, the man toilet.
Yeah.
This is no low flow thing that is very weak. It goes whoosh.
Yeah, right.
And he was so proud, and he brought it in, and it was building a new bathroom, and he's so proud of it, and they're all looking at him going, we don't think he's going to come back from this. And then he sits down and he goes, look, Dad, I'm so proud. He accomplished what he wanted in life because he got a Ferguson toilet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal.
I don't think I'm that into it. It's like, there are certain biological things you need to take care of and then move on to regular life.
Well, okay.
So I've never been a reader in the bathroom. But my concern is, because I've only golfed, I've hardly golfed at all in the last year and a half. No, it's almost a year. It'll be a year October. So I've golfed once since last October, and that was to prepare for a golf tournament late April, the Independent Bob Open, but that was canceled because of rain. And then we had so much rain where then it got to be hot, and I don't golf in July and August.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to start, practicing again in a couple of weeks. How am I going to be able to golf anymore and spend 4 or 5 hours on the golf course and not look at my phone? Because if I start talking politics on the golf course or start looking at my phone, my golf game suffers because of it. But because the news cycle is so quick, and it's an addiction that I like this addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I like the addiction of, you've done it.
Mm.
I'll be sitting there eating breakfast. I'll put the phone down. Something's on TV or something. I get up, do something's on TV. I'll spend like 2 minutes watching it. And then I get the urge, I wonder if something else happened. Let me check Twitter to see if anything else happened.
Oh, yeah.
I actually get this emotional or, I don't know, physiological addiction where I got to get the phone back in my hand and just scan for the next 20 seconds. It doesn't take long to scan, but then I want to do it 5 minutes later and 5 minutes later and 5 minutes later and 5 minutes later. I'm like, is this getting to be a sickness?
Well, the other day, I had a pretty long grocery list, and I thought, okay, it's going to take me a minute, It's the better part of an hour. And the grocery store isn't far away, but you got to go. You got to load everything in. Then you got to bring everything in and put it up, all that. And I thought, I could pay somebody $10 and order it online, which I've done multiple times. And I thought, because I get to keep that hour for work, for show prep. I thought, all right, it's only 6 o'clock in the morning. The store was just now opening. I thought, I'll just go. It'll be a quick thing. And sure enough, it was the better part of an hour. But I was balancing that. Oh, I'm totally willing to buy back that hour for $10 or $15 and a tip for somebody to deliver it to my and carry it all the way to my porch, by the way. By the way, there's a new part of the Walmart premium membership where they'll bring it in and put it up for you. I'm okay with Walmart, but I don't want to. By the way, for my parents, I would love to see my parents get that, but I can see why my dad would not want that, because I also would think that would be kind of odd. Just kind of weird. I'm sure for a lot of people that need that assistance, it's great. But all I need is the pizza guy to bring it to the couch. I don't need to put my groceries up. Just bring my pizza all the way to the couch. That's it.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
That's it.
I wouldn't have to leave my phone then and get up and answer.
Exactly.
The door if that
See?
happens.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there you go. But I just, it's just really been lately where the addiction to the phone, which is the addiction, which is actually the addiction to want to know what's going on in the news. And
yeah.
Overall, I don't think that's unhealthy because I love it. It's not like I feel obligated to do it. It's an addiction that I crave and want, and there is no come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no withdrawal that comes with it.
Well,
there's just, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. But there's no bad withdrawal except I need to know what's going on 5 minutes later.
And there has to be that balance even still. And, my pastor approached me and he said, look, It's, you do have to, and you can't look down. Don't pretend like you're praying while you're looking down at your phone. So you have to do something, and I thought, well, I do. I have to make a decision. So I quit going to church, and
I told you what happened when my cousins, when I was back, it was July 4th week, and I stayed extra because my dad's youngest sister, one of his younger sisters, probably the closest to him, my Aunt Mary died. And when I got back there, she died. I think I was originally supposed to be there from Friday afternoon until Monday morning, and I stayed, I think, until Monday afternoon. I was going to go back, and I went back Tuesday afternoon because the funeral was on Tuesday. And when I was there on Saturday with my dad, the phone rang, and it was my cousins, and they were all talking, about their mom. And they were talking to my sister, and my sister said they want to talk to you, and I'm like, I wonder why. Uh-oh. It's what it always is. You're the talk show host. Could you do our mom's eulogy? And, of course, for my Aunt Mary, I mean, I felt honored to do it for them. But I wanted to make sure, guys, you let me know what has to be said in there.
Right.
And so they did the entire thing. And then Monday night was the visiting hours at the funeral home. And I said, do you have a hard copy? They go, nope, well, we'll make sure we bring it tomorrow. But I had it on my phone. Or they gave it to me on my phone. I said, I'd rather not have it on my phone. It's too tough. If I move my finger, I'll lose my place. If you do anything wrong, in this app, it was the app that they had it on, I'm going to lose it. I don't want to be pausing up there at the podium. And the next morning, and God bless them, they forgot to bring me the hard copy. So it's like I got to do it on my phone. So I'm making sure we go back in, the service is going on. I'm looking at my phone. My cousins are looking at me. Luckily, they knew what I was doing. But I'm like, how rude could that have seemed if people didn't know the fact that I was making sure that I could go through every page of the eulogy and get it right. Using my thumb in a particular way, but not moving it, 1 millimeter to the right or left, because then it zaps it to something else.
Yeah.
So that was... But I didn't realize it for a while, and all of a sudden I realized, some people are looking at me like, what's this idiot on his phone for? This is a funeral mass, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But God knew what I was doing, so he was okay with it.
Exactly. It was all for good reason.
And by the way, it was a church that I grew up in, too, which, my father doesn't live there, live near there anymore, but that's where they had it. It was a church I grew up in and went to elementary school. So that was weird going back there and you just flash back to your youth.
Sure.
Because every morning when you were in elementary school, you went to church.
Right.
Every morning you would go at 7 o'clock mass and school would begin at 8.
Right, yeah.
So, but we're working on the addiction and we're working on making it worse.
Yeah.
Or better.
I went back. I just, in fact, the other day went by one of my old elementary schools and couldn't believe it. And I was like, man, this takes me back to when I was 17.
I believe it.
So familiar.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Did they teach you joke telling?
Huh?
Did they teach you joke telling?
I don't know what you tell. I don't know. What? By the way, it's not a joke if it's true. Or it's funny because it's true.
All right. Coming up, stolen valor. What really ticked off the ultimate soldier? Coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This was really interesting last night, Eric. Bellavia was on Fox News with Laura Ingraham last night and said, what angers soldiers. By the way, he was a Medal of Honor recipient from Iraq and Fallujah. And we'll talk a little bit more about his story coming up following this, but here we go.
There's been a lot of things said about the governor, and, look, some of them you could play off of misunderstanding, bios, changes, all that. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Here's what I can't forgive, what no combat veteran can forgive. When your unit in 2006 is deploying to Iraq, we have to stop pretending that this is, a wake-up call at 5 in the morning, everyone needs to be on a plane, we're leaving in 3 hours. The retirement packet alone takes months to process. You knew that your unit was deploying. One of the first soldiers to die in the Battle of Fallujah is Stephen Falkenberg. That was my command sergeant major. He died at the tip of the spear. I can't think of anyone that wouldn't want to deploy with their surrogate children. That's what a sergeant major is. He blots the sun. That's the pedestal we put our sergeant majors on. It's unfathomable that you would let your boys go without you. I know so many men and women that miss birthdays and anniversaries and chunks of their lives. You've had guests on your program that have missed years of their families' lives. You knew what you were doing. You wanted to run for Congress, and that speaks volumes.
Yep. Look, you're not going to win this. There is no way to go back and undo this. I don't know how you address it because there's a few different approaches. Tim Walz can come out and try and be dismissive about it. Well, look, I served my time and I made the choice because I've kind of actually seen this played out already. He didn't say it, but, he chose to serve his country in a different way by running for Congress.
That doesn't cut it.
You're not going to win that.
No.
And then beyond
that's why he hasn't addressed it.
Well, it's because then what do? Okay, you're going to do a full mea culpa? You can't repair this. You can't repair this. And I don't know what happens from here, but this isn't over. This is a stain you can't lift.
It's very hard for him to address it now after he hasn't in 48 hours or 72 hours that it's been out.
If you weren't at the podium from day one, you're not going to fix this.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app, and you can listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. Yeah, David Bellavia, by the way, the Iraq War's only living Medal of Honor recipient, commenting on Tim Walz and his National Guard service and about specifically him retiring before he went, and said basically, look, when he retired, they all knew this doesn't happen. It's not like you're called up at 5 o'clock.
Right.
You know well in advance when you're going. I would always suggest that before anybody judge what David Bellavia has to say, that you read, well, House to House, or the other book, I believe it was, let me just make sure I've got the one that I read. Oh, yeah, it was Remember the Ramrods and Army, Brotherhood in War and Peace. And that book, now I haven't read House to House. I read Remember the Ramrods, and I think it's a book that every American should read, irrespective of your politics, to understand, because I think it is the most definitive book maybe ever written about the mind of an American warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And what goes through that mind, good and bad. You know, he was bluntly honest about everything, and there were moments of humor, by the way, in the book that are just hilarious because you don't expect it. But I finished that book, and I remember thinking two things. David Bellavia is one of the few people that in the planet that has gone through hell on earth and survived. You could not come any closer to facing death than he did. That thought, and the other thought that went through my mind is, I haven't earned my freedom. I haven't earned anything. When you see the sacrifice, you know, what he went through, the friends that he lost, and what he went through at that moment, and what that does to you, the sacrifice of even those who survive, and what it takes from you, you're very humbled by that. You look and you say, I haven't earned a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I haven't earned my freedom. I haven't earned my liberty. It makes you realize at that point that so many people who take freedom and liberty for granted, and it's like, you read that book, you don't. I felt almost, and I know my logic tells me I shouldn't feel any guilt, but the sacrifice that he made and those soldiers made that were either wounded, killed, you sit there and it's a completely different perspective than you see anywhere else. Nobody else could have done that except David Bellavia or anyone else who's through that type of combat situation. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that when I read the book, I had those thoughts. And one of them was, I haven't earned my freedom here. You know, remember the end of Saving Private Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
You know, have I earned this?
Yeah, am I a good man?
Am I a good man? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I mean, you see that, and it comes out of a, you know, soldier's mouth, or the words that they write, and it's like, and the thing is, he'd go do it again.
Sure.
That's the thing. That's where you talk and you say, wow, you know, the courage that it takes. But he'd be upfront. He goes, you don't know you have that courage until you have till you're put into it. You don't know.
Well, and it's the point of the training. The training is the repetition, and knowing that when you're in that ultimate moment, that training goes into play. That's the idea behind that training, is that you learn exactly, it becomes, you want it to be as close to muscle memory as it can be, so that when you're in that heightened sense mentally, you rely on that training to fall in and carry you through that moment. I've heard that, I don't know how many times, from veterans that I've talked to, and we still haven't, I don't think, come close to properly addressing PTSD. And you mentioned he would do it. I have family members who have gone to war. My dad went to war twice. And you know that they're dealing with something, and it's on different levels, depending on the person and and what happened in their situation. But the system as a whole, someone, and I was doing some volunteer work, and a veteran said to me, they train us to go over, they don't train us to come home. There is no preparation on how to come home. And these are the things you think about and what is required. Ultimately, what is required if we're going to go to war as a nation? If we're going to look, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, it made the news, but not every day and not every story.
No.
Not even close. And we have that privilege of being here. We didn't go over. We don't know what it's like. And then those who survive come home and have to essentially reassimilate into society all over again. And then you hear them, when they do talk about it, these stories are just, again, we can't comprehend them because we don't have that experience. It's impossible sometimes to know exactly what they're going through.
Now, I've mentioned Bellavia before. He is now a radio talk show host in Buffalo. He does my old shift at the station that I used to work at, and my old producer was his former producer. And so, and worked for him for a while, and I would, communicate with my former producer, and he just said, yeah, he's just one hell of a guy. But I'll never forget remember when he received the Medal of Honor. He went back and, did not tours. He went back to help recruiting and all that, and then got back to talk radio again. But I remember him saying that this was, receiving it made him realize the responsibility that he had. And he really talked about a lot that I think he might have had thoughts about, should I be doing political talk radio? Because he was talking about the greater thing of bringing people together. And I remember thinking and talking to a couple of people I know who are listeners to him, my buddies in Buffalo, and they said, what do you think? And I said, nah, he'll get back to politics. You eventually have to, because it's what you say politics, people make the term politics seem like it's cheap. Oh, you're involved in politics. But it's about everything that we stand for.
It's also about the policy that drives and controls and determines what people who serve are going to have to do.
And because he's a conservative talk show host, he gets, I've seen it on social media, he gets bitter hate mail.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you see what soldiers think. And I want to play, do we have time? Yeah, we've got time. I wanted to play because you were telling me about the soldier who replaced Walz.
Tom Behrens.
Tom Behrens is his name.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me just see where I had it here. There it is. Tom Behrens. And the fact that, he was a farmer.
He wasn't in the unit when the unit was called up. So technically he had to volunteer. They called him, but they told him, technically, you have to volunteer. You have to say you want to go. And he had 3 kids, the youngest of which was in elementary. He had a farm, a family, and a decision to make.
And here's what he had to say about Tim Walz.
The warning order was already out. Everybody knew they were going. And I don't know if he's never responded why to anybody really, except that, well, I had to quit to run for Congress, which is a lie, like a lot of the other ones. A lot of the lies he tells. I mean, but he basically said that. But, I don't know if he was a coward when he originally did it, or if he felt, well, I'm in over my head. If I go there, I'm going to get people killed, or I'm, maybe deep down he felt I'm incompetent. I mean, you can't talk your way out of somebody shooting at you in a scenario like that. And, he's very good at talking and doing that. I mean, I got to give him credit there. He loves hearing himself talk. The Star Tribune reporter I talked to way back when, he actually said, well, isn't that treason? And I said, well, treason is probably one level over and above what he did. I said, because that's selling the country out to another nation. If you're a double agent spy or something, I mean, that's one thing. But, he is a traitor, because a traitor is basically a person who betrays a country. And that is what he did. And then I got thinking about like that Bergdahl guy that just walked away from his unit in Afghanistan. And it was like, that literally is what Tim Walz did. He is a deserter too. It's a different version of it, but a soldier who leaves or runs away from service or duty with the intention of never returning. That is exactly what he did. He had no intention of ever coming back into guard or filling out one more day in combat boots. When he pulled the plug and was gone, he basically said, tough crap, United States, I'm getting the heck out of here. And
there you go.
Barron's served 17 months over there in Iraq. But he knew, telling in an interview with National Review, when he got the call, he knew. Barron said, I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to go. And he makes some interesting points here. Well, I don't know. I mean, was he a coward, or did he know he was in over his head? He was incompetent. And he also makes the point, he made a similar point with National Review. You can't talk your way out of a situation when they're shooting at you. And he spells it out in the National Review interview that he didn't really know Walz very closely, but he does remember the guy liked to hear himself talk.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then, of course, Harris was asked about it yesterday underneath the plane with the engines going, so you could barely hear her. But she didn't address, when asked about Walz and the stolen valor, she simply said that, he served, and basically the generic people who serve should be honored, whatever, but never addressed the question. And then walked away. He's going to have to address his question eventually, because the longer, does this mean now remember, we always figured that she wanted to use him as Trump is, using Vance to be out there hitting everything all the time.
Right.
Well, she can't use him now because he's not going to take any, if he's going to take questions, that's going to be the first one. We've had now how many days? 3 days at least we've known about this?
Yep.
3 or 4 days?
Yep.
Was it Monday? And he still hasn't addressed it. When somebody tried to compare J.D. Vance and say, well, what about your military service? He addressed it immediately.
Yep.
Here it is.
Yep.
And the fact is, every day he doesn't, it looks terrible. And if he does, how does he address it? Does he say, I'm fully guilty, I basically abandoned my post? Well,
you do that and it's over.
You can't do that, so what's he going to do? Is nobody going to...
You can't deny your record. The media already has your record.
Yeah.
You can't say what they're saying is false.
Right. When Van Jones says you have a problem...
There is no fix for this. There isn't.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.